The Sonic fandom is known for many things, but if you've been around the cesspool known as Twitter, you may be well aware that Sonic fans are very vocal about their opinions on the franchise, and a lot of these opinions aren't generally the typical opinion that the majority has. And recently, there's been this new trend called "We Listen, We Don't Judge," where you give your honest opinion about something, in this case, Sonic the Hedgehog. But Twitter being Twitter, forgets the "we don't judge" part. So a few days ago, I asked you guys to drop your hot takes using that trend, and y'all did not disappoint. So instead of being like the average hypocritical Twitter user and being annoying and calling you stupid and insulting your intelligence for your opinions and then getting upset when you snap back at them when they're being an asshole in the first place, I'm gonna actually listen and I won't judge. Or at least I won't try to. And I'll try to understand your takes. So, without further ado, let's talk about the first one. And I don't think y'all are ready for this one. Sonic nailed 3D to near perfection in 1988/1999, while the plumber boy, that being Mario, had to reach Galaxy in 2007 to finally nail it. Now this one's interesting, because if you ask anybody, they will tell you that Mario 64 pioneered 3D platformers, and I would agree. I don't think anyone would disagree. But when you're looking at it in hindsight, a lot of things don't age super well, like the wall jumping being super annoying to pull off. The camera is really annoying and is probably the game's biggest detriment, and obviously just overall bugs and glitches that come with the time. Compared to even the next big 3D Mario game, Sunshine, it pales in comparison. Now look at Sonic in his first mainline 3D Sonic game. They got the feeling of the controls down tight. The spin dash and midair controls feel like they were refined to perfection, and to many, Sonic Adventure feels like the closest that Sonic has come to replicating the 2D games in 3D, and Sonic Adventure 2 would only go on to perfect it, making the Lightspeed Dash a simple button press rather than a charge, and adding the bounce and roll. Camera issues are still prominent, mostly in SA1, but I feel like it's less of an issue because it's a bit more scripted than Mario 64, which can lead to fewer mishaps. And of course, both games are privy to bugs and glitches, since they're both the first 3D games of their respective series. So when looking at both games at a first glance, yeah, it seems like Sonic nailed it down first try, way before Mario. But when we start to zoom out, things start to become different. Mario refined his controls and made them timeless, while Sonic, for some reason, instead of perfecting what they already had, they began to experiment and flip-flop from adventure to storybook to boost to whatever Lost World was. And now, as of colors, it seems like the boost is the main gameplay style of Sonic. So while yeah, Sonic may have perfected their controls sooner, Mario actually perfected the controls while Sonic kind of just lost what worked in the first place. Up next, I want to talk about Sonic CD. Now, I've seen a lot of Sonic CD love in the post. One post even saying it's on par with Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The one I will use though kind of spearheads all the others in the comments. Now it's a long one, so I'll leave it on screen for a while, but basically to sum it up, it says that Sonic CD is better than Sonic 2 and also has more value than any other 2D game, and then goes on to praise the storytelling, music, visuals, gameplay, and the time travel system, saying it's the second best thing that Sonic Team has ever created. Now recently, I made a video on overhated Sonic games, and Sonic CD was talked about in that video, and I mostly agree with this comment. While I don't think it's the same quality as Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I still think that's the best 2D game of all time, but I will defend Sonic CD to my last breath. I think the level design barring wacky workbench isn't as complicated as people make it out to be and actually allows you to have a good sense of flow. And the time travel is one of my favorite mechanics in 2D Sonic, not only because of the visual and musical changes that accompany it, but also finding different ways to time travel, like finding a straightaway or using the pinball objects in Collision Chaos, is just so fun. And the game doesn't make it super hard to time travel. People think it is, but there are so many places in the game where it's literally built to be like, hey, use me to time travel. And the hunt for the time capsules, again, barring wacky workbench, is really fun, and it really isn't that hard to find. And with everything else, the music being a top 3 in the series, the amazing visuals, the intro and outro cutscenes being iconic, this game deserves way more love than it receives. While I still don't think it's better than Sonic 3, I think, you know what, I'm gonna do it right now. I think I'm putting it in my top 3 classic Sonic games. I'm putting it above Mania. I just pissed off a few people with that statement. Up next, we got a tamer one, and I've seen this a few times, but it's that Sonic Forces isn't that bad or is overhated. In reality, if you look at it solely as a game, completely detached from Sonic's legacy and what the game represents, it's just the definition of a whatever game. It does nothing special, and it does nothing super egregious. It just exists. It truly is the underachiever of the Sonic series, and I've said this before, but I feel like while 06 did irreparable damage to the Sonic brand, Sonic Forces did irreparable damage to Sonic fans. It's because of this game that we can no longer just be excited for a Sonic game without having to be skeptical or analyze every bit of gameplay. Well, I mean, I do it because I like analyzing stuff, but that's besides the point. And don't even get me started on what I like to call the Forces fearmongers, and we all experienced it with Shadow Generations, where it had to beat the Forces level design allegations. And again, you have to understand, to people who were hyped up to this game, it felt like we were falsely advertised to, saying it was developed by the same people who made Colors and Generations, when in reality, none of the 3 level designers working on the game worked on either game. And the game promoted the idea of a Shadow and Chaos fight when they were just relegated to cutscenes for adventure nostalgia bait. So when looking at the game itself, yeah, it's really not that bad, but when looking at it and what it represents and what it did to the fan base, it's easy to understand why it's so revered. Up next is another chill one before we get into a real crazy one. Frontiers Final Horizon is the worst update to ever release for any video game. Oh, what? This isn't chill. Alright, let's talk about it. So, I really like Final Horizons. I'm not gonna ignore its issues though. At launch, Knuckles' controls sucked. The character combat, besides Knuckles ironically, was really ineffective. The difficulty spike was crazy, though I enjoyed it. The presentation of the game still ain't the prettiest. Pop-in, some people take issue with how some characters were written. Frontiers jank was still prominent. Trust me, I am fully aware of this game's issues. But to call it the worst DLC ever to be released when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2022 Season 1 exists that offered a grand total of 2 new maps that aren't even original but remakes, and like 3 new weapons, or Supersonic even being considered for paid DLC for Sonic Forces, or Final Fantasy 15 where it assumes that you've watched the movie, leaving you completely in the dark if you didn't. I think this DLC is far from the worst. I still think that the open zone platforming is a major step up from Frontier's base. The cyberspace remixes are some of the most fun boost levels in the series for me. The addition of the spin dash in the level design actually encourages you to use momentum, not just for Sonic, but for Amy as well. The final boss and the ending is tied for me right next to SA2. The reintroduction of multiple playable characters for Sonic after 15 years in a 3D mainline Sonic game. The towers being some of the most fun platforming in the open zone. Given the fact that they were given only 10 months to put this all together for free, it is far from the worst DLC ever created. I think it's actually one of the best in the Sonic series. Alright, can we get an actual calm one now? Sonic Lost World is cool, Shalov. It's a very good game. Oh my god, what's with the anger? But for real, truth be told, I don't really have any hatred for the game anymore. That's been replaced, let's just say. It's actually kind of grown on me for multiple reasons, but honestly, it's not that bad. Do I think it's very good? No. The story is one of the few times a story drags down a game for me because it's so prominent.
Save my buddy.
Better luck next time, fuckboy.
And the whole game is just the antithesis of what a Sonic game should be. So while I don't think it's Satan's worst creation, I still think it goes against everything that Sonic is known for, and I'm not really a big fan. Because while it's a good game, I don't think it's a good Sonic game. Also, Xena exists, so that's neat. One user said that Sonic 06 has a good story and fun gameplay. Well, I don't know, man. I think Witchcraft VR has something to say about that. I mean, listen, if you want my complete and honest opinion, this is no disrespect to Chaos X, because it ain't his fault. He made a good game, but Project 06 1000% gaslit people into thinking Sonic 06 was a good game. But they're completely different games. One is fun and controls great, and the other Sonic 06. Another one I saw a lot was that Sonic Heroes is overhated. No, it isn't. This isn't me judging. I actually think it's underhated. It needs more hate. Alright, enough stalling. It's the one that you're here for. And I'm kind of upset. I've seen a ungodly amount of Sonic Adventure hate under this post, but this one really caught my attention. The 2000s was the worst era for Sonic games to date. While the Colors era had its roller coaster of quality control, the Adventure era was continuously a downward spiral after SA2 and Advanced. Now, I don't think he's talking about the Adventure era because he says after SA2 and Advanced. So I think that this person is talking more about the Dark Age, like Sonic Heroes to Sonic Unleashed. And if we're talking about the Dark Age, then yes, I would agree. You had 3 back-to-back-to-back stinkers. Sonic Unleashed was like mid at best because the day stages were good. But besides that, like the games from like the Advanced era or like Rush series, there was not a single good mainline Sonic game. We were not in a really good place until Colors came out. And it was undeniably Sonic's worst time as a franchise. If this person is talking about the Adventure era being games from Sonic Adventure to Sonic Adventure 2, I would have to strongly disagree. While yes, the games do have their issues, at the time they were made, they were massive successes. Do I do another low taper fade joke? To say that it was the worst period of Sonic would just not be true. And that's why I'm more inclined to believe that you were talking about the Dark Age here. And those were all of the ones that really stood out to me. I for sure haven't gone through every single comment. There's like 100 here. So if you want me to do a part 2, let me know. And before we go to the conclusion, I want to give my own little hot take. As time goes on, Sonic Mania starts to slowly go down my list in my classic Sonic ranking. It used to be number 2, but then Superstars came out and now it's number 3. And now I've played Sonic CD a bit more and now I think it's number 4. And I think the reason why it keeps going down is because I just feel like it doesn't do enough original. The 4 stages that are original are some of my favorite stages in classic Sonic history, but there's just not enough. And that's why I think I like Sonic Superstars way more. It's fully original and I love a lot of the stages there. Even Golden Capital. I'm just so happy that they brought a unused zone from Sonic 1 into the game. I love that. And I think if Mania just was all the stages were completely original, it could honestly beat Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but because it's held back by the past, I can't put it any higher. And it's slowly starting to go down the list for me. But that's my hot take. You can take that as you will. And that's really all I have to say for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications. Comment down below. What do you think about it? Do you agree with these hot takes? Do you disagree? And drop some hot takes over here. And again, if you want a part 2, let me know and I'll give it to you. Also, thank y'all for so much for 9,000 subscribers. We are only 1,000 subscribers away from 10K. So let's make that push to 10K. Hopefully by the end of the year. I don't know, but we'll see. I'll see y'all in the next one.